Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Nikki Starchild Show. I'm your host, Nikki Starchild. Our guest today is Jon Stewart, a former professional wrestler and a political candidate for both the U.S. House of Representatives and Illinois governor. Featured in national media like CNN and the New York Times Magazine, Jon is also a respected UFO and cryptozoologist researcher. He's currently investigating the infamous Victor alien interview, which I guess he just found Victor. We were talking a little bit backstage, so we're going to get more information on that. And there's with a documentary in pre-production about that. So I'm going to bring him in, the one, the only Jon Stewart. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, and hello to all your viewers.
Yes, thank you. Yes, to give some baseline before we jump into the brand new news that a lot of our viewers probably have an understanding of our viewers follow this very closely. Before we jump into that, I just want to give some baseline information to people in the audience, and also while we're talking, maybe give some commentary from you as well.
Sure.
A lot of this this video came out in the 90s, and it was part of, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like I want to say Unsolved Mysteries. Is that correct? It was the alien interview from Hugo
It was a special on a television series called Strange Universe, which aired on the brand new UPN network. And this aired in May of 1997. But Victor actually brought this VHS tape forward in late spring, early summer of 1996.
Beautiful. And so we have part of that footage here. I'm just going to play it.
Okay.
We can freely talk over it while.
Okay.
So those who aren't familiar with the alien interview that is being discussed, this is the footage of the alien. And this is the footage that Victor had, the original VHS that you were just saying, right?
Correct. Yes.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just this is the 3-minute VHS tape that was brought to Rocket Pictures in Beverly Hills in the late spring of 96 by a man that claimed he worked for the government. And he said it reportedly showed a 1991 thought projection interview. They said, okay, come on in. Let's watch this tape. And they sat down and they were gobsmacked because it didn't look right off the bat a hoax. Folks, this was actually a bluish, grainy tint. The darkened room, which does give it a puppet-like feel, this was done by the production company for a television release, just to let you know. This was a bluish, grainy hue. In the foreground, you could see two military men, which you can't see right now. There are the two medics that come in to assist the alien being. This is allegedly from April 22nd, 1991, in the underground facility level called S4, which is underneath the S2 Alpha building, just southwest of Area 51.
So
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. This was the footage, or this is a recreation of the video?
That is the footage. Yes. There was a recreation in the documentary. That is not it. That is the actual footage. Yeah.
Okay. So I know that this all came about when this came out. So I heard about this when the Roswell incident tweeted about it. And they said that they got this, your press release that was coming out.
Right.
And so everybody, when this came out, we were following it too. We were like, wow, this is a press release about the video that a lot of people have seen this video. Like, if you're into UFOs, this has been thrown your way. Like, you've been looking for the alien footage, right? And so that always begs the question, Jon, which is where I always live in like disbelief, which is, if we find something that looks exactly like the alien, we're probably not going to believe it's actually the alien, which makes things like this make a lot more sets. That looks so much like an alien. I don't think it is an alien. So you
Yeah,
had your
it's like
yeah.
somebody said, if Jesus Christ comes down tomorrow on the planet, we'll probably ignore him and step aside him to get to Starbucks and turn the channel to watch Wheel of Fortune. So yes, I'm well aware of where you're going with that lineage, and I agree.
So I want to kind of know the story behind the press release. There were
Yeah,
people you would talk to, there had people you had been around, there was influence that caused this press release to
right.
happen. What did that look like? If you could just take us back before this press release came out, what convinced
Sure.
you? What made you make that energy to be like, I'm going to let
Sh-
everybody know this is real?
Yeah, from what it looks like, it is real. And I just want, before we begin our hour and so crusade here, folks, I just wanted to find the truth. I have no stake in this. I know that pisses some people off. They want me to be this overly passionate, ram it down your throat. I know it's real. I know it's real. Be a grifter, take your $9.99 on your credit card. I'm the complete antithesis to that. And that pisses people off because they can't call me a grifter. They can't call me a con because I'm not selling anything. And I don't care if it's real or not. I just set out to find the truth because this film bothered me for 20 plus years. And in 2019, I had this bizarre feeling that I should find something about this film that I could disprove and get it out of my mind. That's the God's honest truth. I think on January 2nd, 2019, I started investigating that bizarre monitor that was next to the being. Looked like a physiological monitor, but the blip went up and down. And none of the experts that I went to, and I went to the experts, said they had any idea what that machine was, who made it, and they've never seen that. So that made me do a pause. And this has happened repeatedly for the past 5 years in this investigation. I want to disprove it. I want to go on with my life, and it won't let me. It meaning the stories, the journey, the investigation, the non-debunking. And I also want to say this: in 27 years, no one has claimed that this is a hoax, that they took part in it. That has not happened with any legitimate hoax out there in America, from Bigfoot to Yeti to the alien autopsy. This is the only film that no one, not one person, despite the Mandela effect, oh, that's been debunked. No, no, it hasn't. No one has come forward with any definitive, concrete proof from Hollywood, the government, or ufology to say this is a hoax and this is why it's a hoax. And that should bother people, meaning that should get you to get a little closer to your computer screen right now, because we're onto something here that and that I don't know what truly is the answer. And I hope people can respect that. I fully don't know what the hell I am investigating here, meaning what the honest to God 1000% truth is. I just found Victor, the real Victor, last night. But that doesn't mean that the film and the footage is 100% real. So, anyways, very quickly leading up to the press release, asking for people's help on the internet, going on podcasts with my head in my hand, saying, I'm not smart. I don't know much about ufology. I don't know much about the military. I'm compelled to investigate this. Will anyone help me? Pretty humble, for a big fat pro wrestling guy. To ask for people's help is not in my DNA, but I did. And slowly people started to email me because I gave out my email every podcast I did. And I really got the whole ball of wax from one major leaker who gave me a internal memo report from the Defense Intelligence Agency. The DIA really runs the entire alien program for the control group. And the internal memo was, what was this alien? What was the date? How long did the interview last? Where was it located? What type of gray was this? And the 5 military men in the viewing glass watching this interview. And my hand was shaking when I read that when I read that report. And I went to some of my other military leakers and I told them the names that I was given, names that you could look on Wikipedia and know that they're the intelligence or word intelligence in the military, but names no one has ever thought of, recreating. As Linda Moulton Howe once said, the top journalist in ufology, of my list of names, she said, John, you have gold here. No one has ever heard of these men. These are not retreads. No one could have came up with these obscure men in the military in intelligence and hoax you and put them down on paper. It's ridiculous to even assume that. And so once I got the concrete belief that this might be real, the names of the men whom I contacted in the room watching this alien interview, we sent out a press release because I was then going to take this to the New York Times and the United States Congress. And I took it to the New York Times. Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keene. We had a 3-hour meeting in Midtown Manhattan. But most importantly, I walked my talk. I took this investigation, I took my report, my notes, the still shots of this video to Congressman Gallagher, Congressman Burchett, Senator Rubio, Gillihan, Rep AOC, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rep Nancy Mace, on and on and on. Came there, flew there like a gentleman to Washington, D.C., and handed over this report and said, I'm Jon Stewart. I ran for governor. I'm not crazy. Here's what I've got. And I was the first civilian to ever officially submit a extraterrestrial report to the United States Congress. And so I'm a little proud of that. And I walked my talk. Yeah. So that's the genesis of the press release.
So just two things. First thing, I wanted everybody to know exactly, because I saw this on your website earlier. This is listed on your website, huntingvictor.com, and it says, in an effort to keep our investigation far away from requests for money, we do not accept donations, gifts, or ask viewers to like, click, or subscribe. I thought that was really impressive. So,
That's right.
You are the real deal. Like you just said.
Yeah, I'm into this for 20 grand, right? Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I have terrible ADD.
No,
I'm into this investigation
for me all you want.
I'm into this investigation for $20,000 of my own money. So if people don't think that I don't have a stake in it, I do. And I don't want to be a grifter. I don't want to be called a con man. So yes, sometimes I sound like I'm selling the investigation. Well, I'm Italian. I'm a pro wrestler. I'm a former car dealer. I'm a former politician. I'm a former salesman. Yes, that's in my nature. The way I talk is very, like I am selling something, but I'm certainly not with this. I'm simply trying to share people my story, my journey, and my investigation of this absolutely crazy film. And one last thing, I can pat myself on the back one more time. I'm sure the skeptics will chime in, but I have done everything I can in the past 5 years to support podcasters, YouTube channels that are in the UFO community, because I think this is really an important grassroots effort to keep this this phenomenon fresh, keep the legislatures on their toes, to know that we have this grassroots platform, the podcast and YouTube channels. And I've donated money to podcasters without asking for anything in return. I've donated money to charities on behalf of the UFO community. I've helped podcasters and YouTube channelers by going on and donating my time to keep this phenomenon going. So, I'm here, with pure heart, trying to every day, as much as I can, help the UFO community take one more step towards total disclosure.
That's exactly why you were invited on the Nikki Starchild show. And it's true, though, putting your time and your effort and your money on the line, especially
Yeah,
in a field where this is what you take this hobby up, people immediately call you crazy. That's the one thing that whenever I meet people in person, I met a UFO
right,
Twitter friend over the weekend, and she was like, well,
yeah,
everyone thinks I'm crazy. And I'm like, everyone thinks
right,
we're all crazy. Like, you're in
right,
good
right,
company. So, John,
right.
you don't have to say that here either, because they think I'm crazy. That being said, when you what were the responses that you got from all those politicians that you listed after they received it? Who responded to you? What was that like?
Great question, by the way. Thank you for that question. Um, I respect him. I want to still help him, but Tim Burchett totally ignored me. His staff was very kind to me, received on the phone, setting up the meeting to come in and drop off my investigation. And Nikki, I don't know. Please, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. I don't want parrots out there patting me on the back. When a guy that ran for governor, who's a grandfather, semi-retired businessman, flies to Washington D.C., rents a car, drives to your office, do you maybe send him a letter? 2 weeks later, say thank you for stopping by. We received your packet. We'll get back to you. To totally ignore me. All of them did the same thing, totally ignore me. The only person that truly reached out with staff, with meetings, with phone call meetings, with we will help you was my congressman, Brad Schneider. And if the UFO community thinks that Tim Burchett is some hero, he might be. I'm going to tell you something. Brad Schneider of the North Shore of Chicago, that guy literally opened the floodgates for his staff. And I could tell, basically just said to him, hey, John ran for my seat. John's a neighbor of ours. I'm not sure what's going on. We need to help him. So they helped me going to Congress with my investigation. They helped me navigate the whistleblower phase, which we found out I couldn't do anything because I wasn't in the military or a government employee. And a second round, again, folks, Congressman Brad Schneider, if you want to ever write somebody a quick note to say, thanks for helping out in our effort, that's the guy. He also then gave me a staffer to help me fight my appeal to the NSA because I believe the NSA has done electronic incursion on my phone 3 times. So says Apple Corporation. And he gave me another staffer to help me with that until I dropped my appeal. But he has been awesome to me. The rest of Congress, and that's all I'll say. I don't want to speak ill of anyone. I don't want to further the toxicity or the vitriol that we suffer in this community. So that I'll just be truthful on what happened with my rounds with Congress and leave it at that.
And that's why I was excited to have you on the show, because I always feel like so many people can dish it out, but they can't take it. And
Yeah.
I was a little bit like, what if it's a puppet on your, and you were super cool with me, and you were
Yeah.
open, and you were like, and that's kind of how my friendship with Ashton Forbes started a little bit. Because, you
Yeah.
question, but when people are kind and respectful and can have a
Yeah.
conversation without going to like personal insults, these are the ones I see enough. Like, well, you just don't get it, or you don't have the cognitive abilities, or you just haven't researched it. Like, it's always it comes, and if you can avoid those and not do personal insults and really try to dig into the information, that's why I was like,
Yeah.
all right, like, you're down to just have a conversation. And this isn't the only thing that you are pushing right now, that not pushing, but that you are, I guess, in the know. I don't like saying that you're pushing it, because that makes you sound too much like a disinformation agent. Honestly, it
Right.
sounds like you're backing and you're pushing, and I don't
If I'm a
really feel that
disinformation
way.
agent, I'm the worst disinformation agent on the planet because I tell people I don't know, I'm not sure. Please help me. And we'll never know 100%. If that's a disinfo agent, then I guess I'm a really bad one because it's, disinfo people, they go out and contact you. They don't sit back and let you contact them. Usually they tell you, yes, 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 it's all real, or it's no, 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 it's all fake, or, they push a narrative. I'm not pushing any narrative except telling people my journey. That's all I've ever done. And of course, telling people to use some logic in some of the investigatory stances in aspects that have been shown to me. Like at some point we're going to have to use some common sense and when Whitley Strieber comes on, and I'm not jumping ahead here, but just a case in point, I don't know about the Monitor until a month ago when Whitley Strieber, a very respected man in our community, says, I think this alien interview was real. I'm going to tell you why. Do you see that green blip? I saw that green blip out of the corner of my eye when I was writing the book Communion. I think it's a way the beings communicate with human beings. Now, I never told a soul about that green blip that went up and down, not horizontally. My question is, how does a second-tier video production company know that I saw that green blip when I was writing the book Communion and I related that to aliens? I, quote, Whitley Strieber, told no one. So this is where I say we have to use a little bit of common sense. We can't whistle past the graveyard on this. We have a man saying he saw this in a counter with beans while writing his book, and now it shows up in a alleged hoax video. Folks, that's when I have to say, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And that propels me towards saying, what the hell is going on with this film? What is going on with this film?
And I took a still frame real quick of the object that you're talking about that Whitley Strieber said he saw, and that's in it. So for those of you, we watched the video a little bit before, and if you go back, you can kind of review it, but there's this blinking object near the alien's head. And this object, like you were saying, has brought a lot of weight to it. Whitley Strieber has seen it. Whitley Strieber also has this alien implant in his ear. I keep this in my overlays because I just think it's fascinating. He does. He has an alien implant in his ear. So the other thing that I wanted to delve into, because not only are you in it with this and learning and trying to expand with these topics, but you're also, because I was doing my show and I was like, we talked about this with the interview, and we report quite a bit or talk about quite a bit the things going on with Lockheed Martin, how, there's all these reproduction technologies that are happening. And we were watching it. I can't remember. I think it was 6 months ago. You were on, I want to say it was that redacted.
Yeah.
And you brought up the JSOC verse.
Right.
They had kept the non-human craft and they kept it secret from the government. It was a reproduction vehicle. And then actually 2 people died from this.
Allegedly.
There was a firefight, allegedly, from this whistleblower that you had heard from.
Yes, correct.
And he was willing to state his name too, wasn't he? I feel like I found his name too.
Well, his first name and his last name's first initial. He was willing to meet with me. He did. And I gave everyone the email. Once someone said that, one person said that I created this story for attention when a week prior, I got voted second in the Iowa straw poll for Libertarian candidate for president of the United States. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, attention. No, I mean, this whistleblower named military companies that I've never heard of. I asked questions. He sent them back to me. It was a real give and take, back and forth, and then he disappeared. But I certainly didn't make up the story, create the email. His name and likeness is on LinkedIn, and he resurfaced again about a month ago, wanting to know why his emails are on the internet and if I could help him take them down, and then he disappeared again. So he's real. I just don't know if the story is real. I think there's elements of the story, like aerospace companies having their own recovery team. Of course, that would make total sense. That JSOC doesn't operate inside of America. We have 3 or 4 inside military people that said, no, JSOC does operate inside of America. And I don't think you want to know what they do inside of America because it relates to the UFO phenomenon. So there were elements. And then last week, we find out that a manuscript submitted to DOPSR, which is the government department that reviews all kinds of publications that military people would like to put out into the public, whether that be an essay, an editorial, a news article, or a book, or a movie. And the manual was called Sentinels of Ether. Very stupid name, very poorly written, but it's got elements of this Lockheed firefight in that manual. And I said, oh, well, then it's 100% a hoax. And then my military leaker said, but usually most of the stuff going into DOPSR, DOPSIR, I believe, happened to these military people, and they're just trying to be able to disseminate it to the public. And DOPSR does the sanitization of top secret material and whatnot, and won't let you, put that out. So I've been told that that it's possible it did happen to some degree, maybe a skeleton version of it, because why would somebody submit that to the government to be allowed to turn it into a movie? So just bizarre stuff that's way ahead of my pay grade. And I said it then, I said it now. It's a crazy story. I don't believe most of it, but I do believe there's a lot of elements that are true.
Well, yeah, and then that's why I bring it up, is because so much of this, it's so hard to look at the alien interview and be like, this is real, right? And then you get into other things that sound very real and very dark. Tucker Carlson's talked about how there are currently cases going through the VA about some people who have been damaged and died related to UAP craft. That was at the beginning of the last Joe Rogan podcast with him.
That's right. Yeah, you're going to want to follow that whole scenario of the government getting sued for brain damage from soldiers encountering these non-human intelligence, alleged non-human intelligence. Uncle John will tell your viewers as coffee talk conversation. Keep your eye on that. Trust me.
Yes,
because in the courts is discovery, where the government has to give up everything legally. So I'm just saying, keep your eye on that.
Well, that's where I think it's going to come out. And that's where the phenomenon reaches like a documented reality that most people can be like, that's part of my real world. That's the VA. My dad was in the military. Wait, that's weird. They were like deployed in the same area and they got the brain damage. Weird. What, I mean, when you learn. So I think that stuff's really going to, but I'm very excited because you are at the pinnacle here. Like you said, what did you say before we got on? It was
I'm
like
over the target.
Gloves or something like that. No,
yeah, Victor, the gloves are off. I'm over the target. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
I want to hear about Victor. Like, let's hear about all of it. So you talked to Victor on the phone last night. You met him in person. How did in person or on the phone?
On the phone.
Okay, so you got his phone number. You managed to find him. How did you find out he was still alive? Like that's kind of what came across my mind. I was like, maybe he's not alive anymore.
Well, I have to, Nikki, I have to be so careful here because there's so much. All eyes are on me, and I can't ruin legally any kind of a deal to get this documentary to market, and that is for the sake of the viewers. It's not going to be a lot of money, so it doesn't matter to me, but it is my obligation to get this information out to the public. So I have to be extra careful, and I don't want to be evasive, but I will just say me and another investigator found him. We found a way to get his phone number. I called him up. He chuckled a little bit. He was as much of a dick as he was in the 97 documentary and the follow-up documentary in 08 when he comes back to challenge the UFO community. No, very few people realized there was a second documentary. He denied it, of course, at first. I got him to slowly kind of, I don't want to say too much, and he asked me to call him back this week during normal business hours, which I thought was really funny because I called him late at night. So my hand's still shaking. I'm still in disbelief. I spent 27 years looking for this man. It's like somebody looking for their father or mother that they, never knew at birth. And it was just a great moment in my life, a moment of accomplishment, a moment of being happy for the UFO community. And I don't say that to curry favor with your viewers, but I am one of you. You are one of me. We are brothers and sisters together in this community. So I'm happy for us. I'm happy that one of your own who is on the low part of the totem pole as far as intelligence. People, my friends call me the George Costanza of ufology, and they're not far off. I'm a quitter. I'm easily distracted. I'm not organized, and I'm not too bright. I'm wise. I'm emotionally intelligent, but I am not smart. So, for one of the people on the low end of the totem pole of the UFO community, me, to break and prove ultimately, I think, the biggest story in ufology. Forget the Wilson documents and, forget the alien autopsy, although I find that interesting. I am on my way to proving, maybe, hear that, maybe for the first time, we have an actual off-planet being on film. I have certainly proven who Victor is. And I was wrong about 4 times about Victor. I am not wrong about Victor this time. We had 5 other people look at all the evidence, look at this man's photo to the Victor photo that we got lightened off the documentary. It's Victor. I found him. I got him. I nabbed him. So tagged and bagged, baby.
Nice. So, that's good. Yeah. Good job, man. Like that's seriously impressive.
I just can't, and that's all I'm going to say. So, like a Vatican official dying of Parkinson's told me in Havana in 2016 when he saw this 3-minute film that I showed him, if I can prove it to the preponderance of the evidence, Nikki, I'm never going to prove it unless 100%, unless I have the puppet or the being in formaldehyde, right? But if I can prove it to the preponderance of the evidence, to the totality of the evidence, where even the ardent skeptic goes, okay, the fat bald guy got it right. This Vatican official told me that unless somebody can produce a VHS tape of the parting of the Red Sea or a Polaroid of the crucifixion, he looked at me and he said, you are holding the most important historical document in human history, bar none, because you're going to answer one of 2 of the oldest questions. Where do we go when we die? And are we alone? And I think in the next few months, I am going to prove to the world that we're not alone. Let's deal with it. Let's move on. I don't want to make light of it, but I want to make light of it for my own safety, my own protection. And so it's going to be an exciting 2, 3, 4 months coming up here.
And I know
for everybody, for everybody, not just for me and my family, and
yeah, like, I mean, I'm hoping it all comes out like ASAP, but that's just me. But so I know you can't reveal too much depending on sources and a lot of other things that you need to, keep legitimate and do your thing. But what did that conversation with Victor look like on the phone? Was it like, it was kind of like, hey, it's legit, John, and you're like, all right, Victor, like what did that look like? What was that like?
Well, to be perfectly honest, we did not talk that long, but he immediately broke the ice, not on purpose. I expected the jerk Victor to be hello with the voice alteration. That's my imagination. And he picked up the phone and he said, hello, Jon Stewart. I did the Ralph Cramden, humana. And Ralph Cramden is a 1950s series. Guys, look it up on YouTube. I forget sometimes who I'm talking to. I'm joking. So he took me off. I said, how did you know it's me? And he said, well, I have caller ID. And you heard someone else in the background, like being very jovial, not goofy, like drunk, or just like, another person's voice. And I'm like, he's not alone in front of a fireplace in a castle on top of a mountain, trying to cause doom and gloom around the world. And I just simply said to him, I know it's late. I'm sorry for calling so late. I'm an investigator, and I have some information that I would like to run across you. And I just want you to know that I know what I'm about to ask you. I know what the answer is. And I say that respectfully. I said, will you admit you are the Victor who appeared in the 1997 Rocket Pictures Alien interview. And he went, you mean, and I'm being verbatim, you mean that little film that snuck out, I'm like, yes, the little film of the alien that snuck out. And I was a little condescending to him. And he's like, well, you've got your facts mixed up. Oh, he didn't say it wasn't him. And I said, I have your photo. I have it overlaid on Victor. It isn't a close match. It is from the hair, the eyes, your hooded nose, your no upper lip. I said this to him. The beard. It's you. It's like a Bill Clinton. I didn't say this part, but I'm like, it's like this, taking Bill Clinton and another picture of Bill Clinton on top of each other. I said, please, I know it's you. And he said, well, can you send me the picture? Now that right there, my investigator, Chris Todd, who proved the OJ case. He proved John Bonet, Natalie Wood. He is a bulldog. He went right there. He wants to see the evidence. What does a guilty person say in the interrogation room that we always see on Dateline in 2020? Well, what evidence do you have? That is a guilty stance. Instead of, it wasn't me. You could show me anything. It's not me. He didn't say that. And then he said, I would be more than happy to speak with you this week if you would just mind calling me during normal business hours. And that's when somebody else in the background, not crazy or loud or abrasive, said, yes, please. Normal business hours would be nice. And I said, I will do that. And I thank you for taking the call. And he would, kind of chuckled. And he said, I'll talk to you later.
Wow.
I expected, him to speak in French like he did in the 2008 and start talking about the end of the world. I did not expect a happy-go-lucky Victor, so to speak. So, yeah. Well, so that's about what I can say.
And that's the goal of your documentary. That's what your documentary is that you were trying to do.
Yeah, Hunting Victor.
It's in production. Yeah, so this is the website, you guys, Hunting Victor.
It's the worst website on the planet, so don't make fun of me.
No, it's fine. It's good. It's great. I love it. Yeah, but you talk about, that's the whole thing, is where you're looking for Victor, because Victor can confirm the validity of it. His name isn't Victor, though, right? Victor's the alien
pseudonym,
went by in the movie or in the original film from the 90s.
It's a pseudonym, and the director told me. The director of both documentaries, who I've been communicating with for 3 years, he won't give me the full scoop, but he's like, do not waste your time looking into the meaning of Victor. We just randomly pulled it out of a hat. I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. That saves me a month of, consternation and thinking and, so yes, Victor is not his real name, of course.
Right. I just want to clarify for the audience.
And Nikki, another thing, I think what's important for your viewers to understand, for 27 years, Hollywood, the government, and all of you in ufology, everyone from the top echelon down to the casual observer, have all told me for 27 years, you find Victor, you prove the video. If you can prove they just hired an actor, well, we know it's fake. Usually, we could probably say it's fake. But if you find that Victor was a government employee, that he was in these programs or whatnot, now we've got the cat put back amongst the pigeons. Well, I've proven, I know for a fact he's not an actor. I've proven that tacit work with the government and these special access programs. So I ask Hollywood, I ask the government, and I ask ufology. Well, now what are you going to tell me? Now what? He's not an actor. So now where do we go?
Is he going to come forward with his real name then?
Well, I will. I'm going to come forward with his real name. Hell yes.
With his real name in the documentary.
With his real name in the documentary.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. I'm excited.
I'm coming forward with some of the names of the men that are in the room. This is the problem. I don't want CNN trucks and ufologists knocking on the door of a retired vice admiral that I think is a gentleman, who did email me, but cut me off once he knew what I was investigating. I don't want an 80-year-old widow, the widow of the doctor on the alien's right, our left. That's a fact. She identified him. So did her daughter, his stepdaughter, identified the doctor on the alien's right, my left. I don't want ufologists at her door asking her questions. So I am in a real pickle here. I'm a sensitive person. I have a tremendous amount of empathy. I'm a Pisces. I had a very loving mother. I'm very empathetic. I don't want these people to have any kind of incursion in their life, and I don't know how to solve that without giving their names out and whatnot. I'm in a real pickle with, not wanting these people's lives disrupted because they've done nothing wrong. The vice admiral, the naval captain of intelligence, the telepaths, these people have done nothing wrong. They were thrown into this alien interview and retention program. They probably didn't ask to be there, yet they did their duty. So I've got some long nights ahead of me of how to, and I'm trying to ask people, lawyers, the production people, my production company. We've been batting this around for 4 or 5 months, how to get around this, or I don't know if there is a way to get around it without coming out with their names and stuff. And we're not accusing them of anything. We're just, tagging that they were at this facility and whatnot. So, so that's the real problem with the whole video. Is for me is outing these people. The biggest problem, and I don't know if people will believe me, but it is the truth, but it sounds oxymoronic, is that if I could prove this was fake, and folks, I raise my right hand to God. If I could prove definitively that this was fake, like if somebody had backstage footage of everyone setting this up and the animatronic people behind the wall, I could have sold this to Hollywood 4 years ago. But the fact that there is a possibility that this is real and growing by the day that it could be real, Hollywood is terrified of this. They don't want the truth. They don't want a scared, viewership. They want a titillated and a viewership. They want an amused viewership. They don't want to scare the shit out of the people watching their programming. This was said to me by a TV executive. So this has taken time because we can't prove that it's fake. And I'm my right hand to God on that. If I could prove it was fake, this would have been on TV on Netflix 3 years ago. So we got some problems to cross, some hills to cross.
On Twitter, they had some questions for you about the medical about the medical procedure that they're doing right now.
Go ahead.
Just like, some people say they don't think, I don't know anything about medical stuff, so I really can't say. But some people say it just doesn't look like medical people. Okay. It looks like they're pretending to be medical people.
Let me tell them for everything that I've known. Number one, why don't they get in front of the alien to tend to him? 2 reasons. There was a table 6 inches from the alien's thorax, his chest. You couldn't get in front of it. Number 2, they are documenting this for the audiovisual department of the Department of Naval Intelligence. If you're cutting open the skull of a alien being, and all these generals and colonels and intelligence officials are watching back in Washington, do you want to get totally into the shot, so to speak? No, you would do whatever you could to maintain the integrity of the subject matter. Now, that might sound theatrical, but they were shooting this for visual audio documentation. And number 3, the room was dark. Okay, the room was kept a little dark in the original videotape. It's for the comfort of the creatures. The creatures do not operate good in high aspect lighting. The blackness over their eyes is a biological light reflector. And so they operate in lower light conditions. They were not shining the torchlight in the being's eyes. They were shining it on the bottom of the ocular cavity, looking for hemorrhaging because the being was coughing so violently. They were also looking for hemorrhaging or nasal discharge in the nasal passage and in the mouth. And it did discharge a blackish foam out of its mouth. This is what the medical staff was looking for. Why aren't they in pressurized suits? Because we have had these beings since 1947. After 55, 60 years, we have realized that most beings, most of the grays, if not all, are not a contaminant to human beings. It's the opposite. We are more of a potential contaminant to the grays. So it's kept at biosafety level 2. People say, well, biosafety level 2 is glasses and smocks. Yes, it is. And I have talked to many people that say laboratories, universities, government agencies all over the world have their own variation of biosafety level 2. And the basics of BSL2 is a covering over your street clothes, medical gloves, some sort of headdress, and a mask. If you want to do a smock or glasses, that's great. And after the gloves are removed, washing of the hands. That's biosafety level 2. And there are variations. But, the haters and the skeptics, want to, they should have smocks on. And if they had smocks, the haters would say they should have pressurized suits. I can't. But I've talked to many people now in the past, 3 years. There are many variations of biosafety level 2, period. And let me see what else what everybody else about the medical staff. And I talked to the widow of the doctor on the alien's right. Yes, it's a little blurry. I sent her a blown up picture of her husband or of the medic. And she said, that's my husband. I could tell by the bridge of their nose. I could tell by his eyes. She said, and I said to a skeptic, do you not think I couldn't recognize my wife during COVID with a ski cap and a face mask on? I could recognize my wife in 12 seconds. That is ludicrous and preposterous that a woman could not recognize her husband from a film. And she said something Victor said. Victor said that the medical staff is chosen more for their ability to keep secrets than their medical knowledge. What did this woman tell me? Before I sent her the film of the alien, my husband was very secretive. I'd love to tell you about his time in the U.S. Army Medical Corps, but he never talked about it. She said, John, all of our friends were in the military, Korea, Vietnam, World War II. They had funny, humorous stories about boot camp or food at the bases, you name it. My husband never chimed in. My husband never, ever told one story of his time in the Army Medical Corps. And I could find nothing about her medical doctor husband who died at like 75 years of age on the internet. So you're looking at another Bob Lazar claiming they were sheep tip, which is the removal of your entire bio. I could not find one thing about a medical doctor who died at 75 on the internet. Not that he hit a hole in one at the golf course, not that he was on the freshman basketball team at his high school in 1950 something, that he gave his daughter away to be married. Nothing about a medical doctor who was at S4. You explain it. I'm not going to explain it to skeptics anymore. It explains itself. This is the government modus operandi. You want to deal with us? Great. You want to leave? Or once you're done, you're getting sheep dip. No one's going to know. No one's going to know of you. No one's going to know of your educational background, so on and so forth. As much as they possibly can, disappear things.
That's why I'm so excited about your documentary. One thing that I'm hearing about like your journey that really resonates, that I can see, is that you're about people and reaching out to people and using people as information. And that's the thing that like a lot of people, when you get into ufology, you can watch things on TV, you can do things. But once you start going out in person and meeting people, right? Like to know the doctor's wife, like that, to talk on the phone with her, like we could look at. But that's the thing. Any photo that we have of an alien is going to be unbelievable. It doesn't matter what photo it is. Like you're still going to have to prove, it doesn't matter what it is. You're going to always have to prove that this wasn't this or this or this or this or this.
Right. But
to have the people stand behind it in your new documentary and knowing that you found Victor for your documentary Hunting Victor, I'm just thrilled for you, especially that we got to sit down and have this conversation. Just because I think the viewers I think people in ufology like to know, like, how do people come up with their processes? Like, how do they come to these decisions? You know what I mean? Because everybody has a different way of figuring out, like, I think this is legit. Like, I even think skeptics, they're taking a step of being skeptical. They're like Mick West, I'm going to be skeptical no matter what. That's his belief system. He's skeptical no matter what.
Crazy. Yeah. The first day before I started this entire investigation, I can answer your speculative or inquisitive remark. A customer of our family business is a famed sergeant in the Chicago Police Department. His name is Bill Giaconetti. And I didn't tell him about aliens. I said, I'm going to really start investigating something. He knew I, did some writing for some shows and stuff like that. And he said, John, and he solved some cold cases. He said, I'm going to tell you one thing. You're never going to solve anything sitting at your desk and looking at the computer. He did this in the Chicago accent. He's like, you're going to have to get out. You're going to have to knock on doors. You're going to have to irritate some people. You're going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Nikki, I have never been comfortable with being uncomfortable, believe it or not. If it wasn't easy for me, I wouldn't do it. So I thought that was great advice. Basically telling me, start acting like a 1940s, old school journalist, knocking on doors, working the phones, putting notes on cars. I talked to Ralph Blumenthal of the New York Times, and he stopped me and he goes, wait a minute. You left a note on the guy's windshield? I'm like, yeah. He goes, Ralph Blumenthal, this old school journalist, he was like perplexed and elated, like, wow, somebody is still doing it, like the old school, like you'd see in a dime, B noir detective movie. Yeah, I knocked on doors. I called offices. I went to offices. I left notes on cars. I used fake names to get some people on the phone. I think I'm at 405 phone calls at this point. That's a lot of hangups, a lot of wrong numbers, and a lot of embarrassment. The mastermind, his name was Joseph Yeager. I won't get into it, but I had 5 wrong Joseph Yeagers. Can you imagine contacting these families? It was, and then realizing it wasn't them, calling them back saying I made a mistake. Some were nice. Some were like, don't call us again. You're nuts. And, it got really hairy, but it didn't deter me. It didn't deter me from doing old school journalism. And God damn it, I did it on this investigation and it worked.
See, and that's it's interesting. I've just been listening to you talk throughout the whole thing, and it's so great because you're saying I'm the George Costanza of ufology. I make that joke all the time. I say I'm the Elaine of ufology, right? And I'm also a Pisces, so I understand that a little bit. But the thing about these videos and them coming out and touching base with people who are in them and collaborating with it and trying to find the information. If anything, that's what I've noticed. People will throw stones at you when you're just trying to look. And trust me, we have had our share of ridicule like nobody's business. And God bless you for being a guy who goes to Washington that does this. I can barely tell my coworkers. Yeah. They're like, what? But it's like, it's the same reason I get driven into it. You get driven into it. There's something here. Like there's a reason you left a note on somebody's car.
Correct.
Because if you don't do it, John, who will? Right? Like that starts to become the question. Like there's an implant collection of Dr. Roger Lear that they have all the implants, the alien implants that Dr. Roger Lear ever had from patient 18. He was the big implant guy. That implant, if they're sitting in somebody's attic right now, and there's tons of people all over the world who'd want to study it. And so it's all about just getting there and the ridicule. Right. The ridicule is real. Like you're talking about, being concerned about the doctor's wife because she's a widow, right? And her being ridiculed and people coming to her doorstep. That's real, John. People are going to Kirkpatrick's doorstep and being like, you're into UFOs. I'm a UFO fanatic. It's getting weird. We're getting to the point of like regulation with this kind of stuff that people are doing online. Ridiculous. And so that's also a conversation that's been happening, and it's sad because that's because of the ridicule in this field, and there's so much actually going on that if and I just thank you so much for being in the field. I am so glad you came and sat down with me and we could have this conversation. You are true blue in my mind. because
Thank
you're
you.
going out there and you say one thing that's so dang important, and it's that you say, I don't know, I got a hunch, you guys, and I can't let go. And that's how I feel. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know either. I've got a
Right.
hunch and I can't let go. And also, God bless you, because you aren't somebody who comes in and says, well, I'm the smartest person here.
Right. That's
That's
not me.
exactly the first person I don't listen to. The person who I'm
Right.
like, who thinks they're the
Right.
smartest one in the room? Because I am not
Right.
going to listen to a damn word you say.
Right. Right.
It scares me, actually. But yeah, so
The,
I don't know.
the Dead Sea Scrolls were found by a sheep herder's 14-year-old son screwing around with his buddy. One of the biggest anthropological finds in the world was found by the archaeologist's 12-year-old son. The Watergate, the taking down of an entire presidency was undone by a piece of masking tape on a door. So, it might that the alien phenomenon might be proven by an average guy with below average intelligence, but a heart and a tenacity and a belief in himself and in the community and what he was doing. And that may be me. I don't know. We'll see.
No,
Time will
you're
tell.
incredibly smart. You're very well spoken. Gosh, you know what you're doing. And the fact that you say, like, I don't really know, but I've got a hunch, just shows how smart you are.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited about your documentary. Is there anything else you want all the viewers to know? I know you have the documentary coming out. I would think that's taking up a lot of your time, or anything else that's going on, or where you'd like them to find you.
Yeah, if you just want to, if you have anything that you think might still be pertinent to this investigation, and this has really helped me in the past 4 years doing this, is my email, or just go to huntingvictor.com and it's got a page where you can contact us, and that email will get sent to me. And any information you think you might have that's pertinent, just go to huntingvictor.com and look for the contact tab. And I'm really, really good about answering emails. So you will not be ignored if I can, if it's not, it doesn't go to my junk mail. And I sincerely thank you, Nikki, for having me on your show and being a great host. And to all your listeners and viewers, I say this always. God bless all of you. God bless all of your children, your families, your friends, and let's stick together. Let's be good to each other. Let's be kind to each other. Even though we might disagree, we are all in this together. And the only way we will move this forward and solve this phenomenon is together, not by one individual. So remember that.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your life and day to do this. I'm just going to put you into the backstage, and I'll be right with you in just a second. Okay. Wow. So we just had Jon Stewart on. We just talked about the alien extraterrestrial interview. He found Victor. And Victor is legit, and he's coming out to say in the documentary what his real name is. He was there. Victor was there when this was filmed. Could it be real? I do not know. Could it be fake? I do not know. But what I do know is that Jon Stewart's a smart man. Kind, intelligent, and really had nothing to hide. And I really think that it's people like Jon Stewart in this community that really, really make it. It's easy to throw stones at people. It's incredibly easy to throw stones. It's much harder to be the person that believes in what you're doing and to be able to take those stones as well and to keep going. So I got a lot of respect. You guys let us know what you think down below. Do you think the alien interview is real? Do you think it's fake? What do you think about ufology? Whatever you think, let us know down in the description. And also check out some of my other videos that are going to pop up here into this corner in just a wee bit. Other things that I've been doing, Ashton Forbes interview. That's what I'll try to do this. We're trying to make sure this works. But other than that, thank you guys so much, every single one of you. I love each and every single one of you. God bless you all. And I will see you again on another episode of the Nikki Starchild Show. Peace.